Welcome to today's video where I'm going to be talking about the new Natasha Denona I Need a Nude palette. Now I am a color lover, but I do appreciate a nude neutral kind of go-to palette, and I have plenty of them, but I was very intrigued because there were some really interesting looking shimmer shadows in this palette, and I am a sucker for anything shiny, sparkly, wet looking effect, anything, especially from a more mainstream brand. And I really enjoyed the previous palette that launched this year, the Yucca palette, and that one had some really stunning shimmers, so I was very excited. And the shimmers in this palette look like they would be absolutely right up my alley, so I just wanted to try it out. I did get this palette at 20% off, so I didn't pay full price. So I'm going to be creating these two looks that you see that I have on right now. So there is no cream to powder formula in this palette, but there is a new shimmer formula called the Sparkling Wet Effect, and it is the shade Delilah right here and Mia. Now these look so beautiful, especially when I first got the palette before I dipped my grubby little fingers in there. It actually reminded me the way that some of the shadows, the Izamaya Industrial 2 eyeshadow palette had some very similar looking shadows in the pan, at least just the way they looked in the pan. So I was very excited to dip into this palette. There has been so much discussion on whether or not this is a cool tone palette or not. Natasha Denona does describe it as a taupe and rose palette, and that is exactly what I think it is, especially once I saw it in person. I looked at it under different lighting, and yes, I definitely think you've got some taupes, specifically Stone, Tender, and Mesh, and then you got some rosy tones, Vague and Wit, as well as Mia, and to me those do not look very warm. And the shade Silhouette is definitely like a neutral dark brown. I don't think there's any warmth in it, at least from what I could tell from swatching it, from just looking at this. But all the shades might pull differently on different skin tones. I have a very yellow undertone, so anything that's lightly taupe will pull pretty gray on me. I would have done comparison swatches, but I mostly have multi-chrome, duochrome, metallic shadows, and not very many neutral shadows, especially that are just kind of, they're not shifty and they're not sparkly, or they're not duochromes. And even though Mia looks like it might be a little bit of a duochrome in the pan, it really isn't once you swatch it out. So I unfortunately don't have anything to compare to, but I know my friend Riley, aka Seeking Shifts, did swatch comparisons in her video, so I will link it down in the description box in case you want to see some comparisons. So let's get right into the two looks, and then at the end of the video I'll give you some of my thoughts. For the first look, I'm going in with Tender, and it's gonna go right into my crease and a little bit onto the outer corner. And I'm just trying to get that down first, and then I'm wiping off my brush. I'm gonna go in with Mesh, and I'm gonna use that to feather out the edges and just bring it underneath my lower lash line a little bit. And going back in with Tender just a little bit here, right in the crease. And back in with Mesh to blend that out. And then taking Tender underneath my lower lash line just to connect with the outer corner. And I'm really only going to take it about a third way in there. Picked up filigree, and I missed my brush just a little bit, and I'm going to put that onto the outer corner. It's going to be essentially the deepening up shade, except a more like a shimmer shadow, though it comes off not super shiny. And then I wiped off this brush, and I think I'm going to go in with Delilah. I'm just really curious about this one. This picked up really nicely onto the brush, but for safe measure I'm going to mist it anyways. And I'm just going to put that onto the center of my lid. So this one looks very like, this is definitely a wet looking kind of shadow. I can see lots of flecks throughout it. And I'm going to go in with Mia onto the inner portion. I did not miss my brush this time. I'm just putting it on there. I feel like this shade looked a lot more exciting in the pan, honestly, than it does on the lid. And I'm also going to take Mia on my pinky and just pop it onto the inner corner, just so we can see how it looks without being over a matte shadow. And here's the first finished look. Onto the second look, I'm taking Vague and putting that right into the crease. And just go back in with a bit more. And this time I'm not bringing it down to the outer corner. I'm just trying to keep it more or less on in the crease. And then I'm taking Silhouette and I'm just gonna pop it onto the outer corner, but keeping it on the lid before I start blending it outwards. And then I'm gonna also put it just a little bit onto the inner lid. I should have used a smaller brush, but it is too late now. And just a little bit more onto the outer corner here. So it's gonna look a little bit off first, but then I'm gonna start blending it out. And I'm just using Vague to blend that out. And then on the inner portion as well. I'm taking a small pencil brush to just really get up in here. And same out here, just very close to my lash line. And then underneath my lower lash line. Just to, again, connect there. And then going back in with this blending brush. I believe this one is from Spectrum B11. And I'm just kind of blending it, everything out. I'm taking my time. And then now I'm going to go back in here. I'm going to take a little bit of Vague as well on the brush. And just keep swirling, swirling, swirling until I get it to about where I want it to. And then I'm going to actually use Muse. And I'm going to pick it up on my pinky. Look how shiny. This is definitely the shiniest shadow in here. And probably the most exciting shadow for me personally in this palette. I feel like it looks a little bit more brown in the pan. But putting it on, I feel like I don't really see the brown as much. Oh, that's so pretty. Really liking how that came out. I'm just gonna take this brush and just flick off some of the sparkles. I kind of want really the sparkles in the center of my lid, and I did go a little bit into my crease because it's going to end up there anyway. And I just like that lightness there. Actually, I might actually go even more. So it just creates this like more opening effect. And here's the second finished look. So overall performance-wise, this is very much a Natasha Denona palette. The mattes perform really beautifully. They're a bit layerable, which I very much enjoy that, but they can also be very opaque depending on just how much you pick up with your brush and how much you put down, and if you use a tacky primer. I do wish that there was at least one more deeper matte, because right now there's only one deepening up shade, and I do prefer to have at least two options in an eyeshadow palette, especially of this size. And I do like the taupe and the rose being paired together. I feel like you could create some really beautiful everyday looks and spice it up with some of the shimmers like this look right here. So let's talk about the shimmers. I feel like I'm a little bit disappointed personally, and maybe I just set my expectations too high, but especially after seeing that swatch video, which I will put up here, I was expecting a bit more. And when I first swatched Mia and Delilah, which are the new Wet Effect foiled shadows, they feel a lot drier than I was imagining them, and they are a bit sheerer, and they're just not really giving the complete like liquid metallic foiled look that I was expecting from them. And based on the swatches that I've seen Natasha Denona post on their Instagram page. So overall, not the biggest fan, a little let down by some of these shimmers. I think Muse is my favorite kind of shimmer because it is so shiny, very impactful kind of shimmer shadow. And then Ella and Filigree are okay. They basically have like little flecks of different sparkly, almost glitter-like particles in them, but it's not glitter. Whisper and Travertine are definitely more satin-like shadows, so I'll probably really use those to just layer some of these other shadows on top. But as always with Natasha Denona eyeshadow palettes, you will definitely not see any sort of skin texture accentuation with any of these shimmer shadows. I really want to try to recreate the video that Natasha Denona posted with the two swatches. I believe it looks like it's the shade Muse and Filigree that she swatched. It doesn't say, just lists all the shades that are in the palette. So let me try to do that right now, and I'm going to show you like how much I'm rubbing in here. So just do, and then where's the other shade? Okay, and then this is what that looks like here. And now we're gonna see just how far those swatches go. All right, look at that. I'm pretty surprised. I'm actually very pleased because I was like, if she's swatching Mia and Delilah, absolutely not. That's not how they're going to look. So let me actually just do that for funsies. And then Delilah. So here's what those two look like. See, they're just like a little bit more than a satin. I don't know. I'm not really impressed with them. So let's see. See, these don't swatch as well as these two, which is probably why they chose these two shades to swatch. But anyways, that was just for fun, so you can kind of see what the finish is like just live swatched. So with all that being said, I'm glad I got it 20% off. I definitely find myself gravitating towards more neutral tones and then just spicing them up with some more fun shimmers when I do go into the office. So I feel like this is going to be a great palette for that. So let me know in the comments below if you picked this palette up and what you think of it, especially the new foiled wet effect shadows. I would love to hear your thoughts, and that's everything for this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time.